Welcome to Zelda Universe TV, it's Zelda time. This is This Week in Zelda News. I'm your host, Bastion, also the editor for the front page of Zelda Universe, and occasionally I write some of the articles. Just this past Sunday, I hosted the mailbag segment, and I enjoyed that so much that Cody went ahead and offered me to take over the reins of the Zelda News segment, which I'll be hosting mid-weekly. But let's get to those top stories. So our first Zelda story comes from the fact that there was a font seen in Skyward Sword, a type of ancient Hylian that we've never seen before. So fans, since that game's been released, have been trying to crack the code, but unfortunately it turns out that there were several letters missing, and they weren't able to successfully complete a full alphabet from that. Thankfully, Zelda Universe forum member Sarah Nilly discovered that it was right in front of our eyes all along. She discovered that on a little notice in the Leoneru province, there was a sign on the wall, and that sign actually had the full alphabet, A to Z, and what that revealed was that the letters weren't necessarily missing. One symbol could be used for two different letters in three instances, so there were three repeating sets of letters, symbols for letters. So thankfully we have that cracked. She went ahead and created a font, and you can find the link to that font in the description down below. In Hyrule Historia, that new art book for the 25th anniversary of Zelda that's been translated page by page from the Japanese by the fans, Sarah Nilly discovered that in the margins of that there was a chart to a whole alphabet that's been overlooked. It was the Gerudo alphabet, seen very, very infrequently, so nobody's been able to translate what was seen, but now we have a font available to us created by Sarah Nilly. Already, fans have been using this to discover that pretty much all of the Gerudo is gibberish. However, on the compass, seen in the Twin Rova fight, we do have symbols which translate to NSEW for the cardinal directions. And once again, Zelda Universe forum member Sarah Nilly went ahead and turned that into a font, so you can find links to both of those fonts in the description down below. Our third story is a little bit controversial. It concerns the fact that one of the pages that's been translated by Glitterberry and her team from Hyrule Historia basically concerns afterword that Mr. Eiji Aonuma wrote to sort of summarize the book. In that afterword, he talks about how game mechanics in Zelda games take precedence over story. Now, for whatever reason, the major gaming websites have taken this out of context to mean that the timeline presented in Hyrule Historia is not canon. How they arrived at this conclusion baffles me, because it seems to me that what Mr. Aonuma is talking about is simply that Zelda games have always been primarily about game mechanics. However, yes, there is an official timeline, and that is certainly canon. So we'll have a link to that story in the description down below as well. Also concerning Mr. Aonuma, he went on to say in that afterword that they're already hard at work at the next Zelda game. He didn't give any examples or clues as to what that game might be like, not even whether it was for the Wii U or the 3DS, but it's nice to know that there's something already in the works. As far as what that game could be, if it's for the Wii U, we already know it's definitely nothing like the presentation that we saw at E3 last year. He's made it very clear that that was just an example of what a Zelda HD game could be like, but we shouldn't expect that that's what it will be like. If it's for the 3DS, a lot of fans have been hoping for that Majora's Mask remake that they've been asking for. We've heard from various interviews with Mr. Aonuma and Mr. Miyamoto that they are not saying no to that idea, but they would really rather pursue for the next 3DS game an original brand new Zelda story. and then maybe we might get a 3DS Majora's Mask after that. And also, both Mr. Aonuma and Mr. Miyamoto have been quoted as saying that they're very interested in what a 3DS A Link to the Past might be like. Now, whether that's more along the lines of a 3D classic, where it's still 16-bit graphics, but a 3D multi-layered effect, or if it's a complete 3D remake along the lines of Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and so on, remains to be seen. They haven't been too specific about that, but all we can say is we'll just have to wait and see if anything new is shown to us at this coming E3 in June. And our final story concerns that Hyrule Historia book. The fans have been so hard at work translating each page from the Japanese that they finished, and that full book was available in English on the website History of Hyrule, who was a core team of that translating process. Unfortunately, Zelda fans were so excited about this that they overwhelmed their servers, and they had to take that down. But you can still find the plain text version back at Glitterberry's website, and we'll have a link to that in the description down below. They do go on to say on their webpage that, of course, we'd all like a physical copy of that book in English and other languages, not just the Japanese, so if you'd like to become a part of this, you can like their Facebook page about this specific translating of it into English, and then hopefully Nintendo will see this, and we'll realize that we'd really like to get that book in our hands in a language that we can personally read. And finally, if you have any suggestions for any Zelda news that you'd like to see us cover in next week's edition, go ahead and leave that in the comments down below, along with any other comments you might have. This has been This Week in Zelda News. The whole alphabet was presented for everybody to see in the Laneru. However you say it. Laneru?